welcome back. The member for Mudgera Bar, Ros Bates, is with me. Ros, going into nursing, I mean, you've got an amazing career. You ended up actually being the Director of Nursing at the Wesley General Hospital and the General Manager, and you've worked in private practice as well. Mm-hmm. What was the process for you for working your way through the nursing industry, the health industry? Do you always have your eye on continuing to make your way up the ladder?
Yeah, I certainly had a bit of a plan of where I wanted to go with nursing. I trained in the public sector. Is
there a fairly clear career path that you can see from the bottom to the top? As
no, not really. I was actually in a very innovative time in health when day surgeries were just coming on board in Australia, and they're the norm these days.
It really did revolutionise health services in Australia.
It certainly did, and it really originated out of the private sector, and I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity by another former Telstra Businesswoman of the Year, who I learnt to run hospitals from, who gave me the opportunity to build a day surgery from scratch and do all the policies and procedures that went with it. Then we moved on and did other day surgeries, so that certainly gave me a bit of an expertise in that area. In fact, I'm pretty sure that a lot of the policies and procedures that you'd see in day surgeries, even today in Australia, I've written, because I did work for a hospital group that was Australia-wide. Mm-hmm. So from there I actually was helping to design day surgeries and theatre complexes, which was terrific fun to learn how to do all that sort of thing, and then obviously the administrative part that went with it. I continued to do that down in Melbourne until I actually got ill and had meningitis and moved up to Queensland. That was actually the impetus for the move, because all of my family were here, and I think I'd come up here to recuperate for 3 weeks, and within 48 hours I had bought a house and gone back and packed up everything and was here a week later.
Queensland, beautiful one day, perfect.
Absolutely. Where else would you want to live?
I mean, as a consequence, though, you'd need to be keeping your hand in with the nursing side of things. You enjoy the admin side more than you actually did the caring side of it?
I actually was well known for coming down out of my office and into theatre and scrubbing to do a case or to do anaesthetics. I always loved rapid turnover nursing, so you would always find me in areas like accident emergency or in theatre or in day surgery. So I do remember once coming down to do anaesthetics for a case, and the surgeon turned around and said to me, "What are you doing down here, Ros?" And I said, "Well, I've been working my staff pretty hard this morning and they haven't had a tea break, so I'm doing the next 2 cases with you." So if you're not down there stoking the coals, you don't know what's happening at the coalface.
I think that's a pretty fair example of why you've progressed so well in your career, is the fact that you were interested in keeping your hand in. The mistake I think too many administrators make of getting away from the grassroots of what their business, their organisation is all about.
Well, I'm certainly was always a grassroots nurse, and I'm like that in politics as well. Obviously I progressed on to have that wonderful opportunity to set up the Wesley Hospital on the Gold Coast, which I thoroughly enjoyed. We did actually have a couple of firsts, which I don't think have actually been surpassed. We had the hospital accredited by the Australian Council on Healthcare Services only 4 months after opening, which is a pretty big thing to do in the hospital industry. At the same time, I was nominated for the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year award, and that was in relation to a lot of work that I was doing with bowel cancer. Bowel cancer is still the second biggest killer of all cancers, internal cancers. So I started that little program out of the Wesley Hospital, went on to win the Telstra Award, and I vowed when I won the award that I would use the Telstra Award as a platform to crusade against bowel cancer, and that's what I did.
Does it change the way you approach what you're doing when you start receiving awards like that? I know it's an acknowledgement that you're doing the good work anyway, but it changes how people see you. It changes the opportunities that are presented for you as well.
Look, it certainly does open doors, and certainly with the bowel cancer program, the very first patient that we picked up with bowel cancer using our program, who had no symptoms of bowel cancer, was my mother. So the day I actually won the Telstra Award, we had the mobile phone on the table at the Hilton Hotel, and my dad and my two sisters were with me, and Mum was listening because she'd been operated on the night before for bowel cancer. What became a crusade it actually became a crusade for me. So I took the program to the then Minister for Health here in Queensland, given that it was a Queensland initiative. Unfortunately, I got the "thanks very much, we're aware of the problem, go away." Not knowing much about politics back in those days, I thought, what do you do with this fabulous program that can save lives? So I took it to the federal government, to the Howard government.
Is it an easy thing to do?
It was.
You say you were on a crusade, and I guess that probably, illustrates how you felt at the time and the mindset that you had.
I think the passion certainly came through, and the fact that it had happened to my family as well made it much easier to talk to members of Parliament. I went to my federal member, who I'd never met before. Like most people, have never bothered to go and meet with their state or their federal member. My federal member, within 2 weeks, had me down in Canberra addressing the Backbench Committee on Health and Ageing on this bowel cancer program, and there was a new member of Parliament on the Backbench Committee called Brendan Nelson, who was just a new a new member of Parliament, and he got very interested, obviously, in the program because he was a doctor as well as a member of Parliament. So between the two of us, we convinced the Howard government to run a pilot program, and then when Tony Abbott came along to be the Minister for Health, it was funded nationally.
Lucky to have you.
Excuse me.
That's right. Lucky to have you having that connection with nursing. I think a lot of people become involved in different health issues and become frustrated with the bureaucracy and the difficulty that they have wading their way through. And yet the fact that you had that background obviously has made it a lot easier for you to plant your feet on the ground and move forward through the problems that you could see facing the situation with bowel cancer.
Look, I think it certainly gives you credibility, because you do know what you're talking about. Not only are you passionate about it because it's a personal issue, it's something that, in my case, I've spent 30 years in the health profession. So, politicians do listen. The trick is actually get to see them in the first place so that you can get your message across. And, from then on, I went into a very little known program called the Life Saving Drugs program, and that's something that I'm very proud of, being a health advocate for families and children with rare and fatal genetic disorders, so that we could actually get funding for them. Excuse me.
Watch you meet the ministers, and while Ros catches her breath, we'll be back again after the break.
Sorry.